6 p.m. I call to order the Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 St. Pete Beach City Commission meeting. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Marriott?
Here.
Commissioner Robinson?
Here.
Commissioner Resnicki?
Here.
Mayor Petrilla?
Here.
Vice Mayor Mulholland?
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda this evening is the March 11th election results. City Clerk, could you please read the election results?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Per Section 3812 of the City's Code of Ordinances and Ordinance 2009-29 adopted on October 27th, 2009, the City Commission delegated the canvassing of election returns to the Pinellas County Canvassing Board. The Pinellas County Canvassing Board, comprised of County Judge Edwin Jagger, County Commissioner Brian Scott, and Supervisor of Elections Julie Marcus, met publicly on Friday, March 14th, 2025, to canvass the results of the nonpartisan municipal election held on March 11th, 2025, and certified the returns for the City of St. Pete Beach District 2 Commissioner election as follows. The number of votes cast was 666, of which Grant Izzy received 241 votes, and Lisa Robinson received 425 votes.
Thank you very much. And for the benefit of the public, on March 12th, Commissioner Robinson and myself were administered the oath of office by the city clerk in the clerk's office. Next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Do we have any modification requests to the agenda?
Vice Mayor, I have two this evening. The first one is to remove consent item D. The Corey Avenue Business Association is contemplating a different event, and so they would like to pause this item. So we will pull it this evening for consideration in the future. And the second item, under the declaration of a local emergency, I'm adding an item under action items to approve a service agreement with Cotton Global Disaster Solutions in the amount of $2,155,702.81 for various city facility repairs damaged by Hurricane Milton, and authorize the city manager to execute the service agreement.
So just so I'm clear on that, Madam City Manager, we're removing item D from consent, which is the special event permit. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
And the second request is to add an action item that would be item 6C.
D.
Okay. 6D is in dog or delta in military phonetic alphabet for Cotton Mobile. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Any other requested modifications or adjustments to the agenda?
Lisa has her hand on.
I have some.
Some?
Yes, I do. I'm following your lead. I have 4. One is under for discussion items is our 422 waiving of permit fees, whether we should discuss if we want to extend those or where we're at on that financially. The next item would be code enforcement discussing whether we should have code enforcement working on the weekends, or at least being on call to take calls. Third one is highest and best use of the Budget and Finance Committee. I'd like to talk about how we can use them to look for more money, seeing as how we recently just had the Pinellas County is seeking public input on how to spend $813 million of storm recovery funds. And the fourth item I'd like to discuss would be lobbyist reports. I was a little disappointed in getting the HB 943 the day before it was going up to the House. I would have thought we would get something from our lobbyists.
And just for clarification, Commissioner Robinson, when you say lobbyist reports, you're speaking of the hired lobbyists that the city of St. Pete Beach procures to perform that service for the city. Is that correct?
Yeah, the lobbyists that we have at Shoemaker. I'd like to see some sort of reporting from them.
Okay. So we're currently adding one item for the action, or for action, and 4 items for discussion. Do we have any other requested item, or requested modifications to the agenda?
I'll have 3 shade
Yes,
meeting
Vice Mayor.
requests during the city attorney report.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. Mayor, did you chime in there?
Yes, I did, and since Commissioner Robinson wants to add to the meeting, I would like to propose that we deduct from the meeting and postpone action items 6A, B, and C to the next meeting. There doesn't seem to be any urgency with those 3 items. We've got 2 commissioners absent, 1 very ill. Thank you, Commissioner Resnicki, for being here today so we can have a quorum. And so I would propose that we postpone those 3 items to the next meeting.
I have no particular issues with postponing that to the next meeting, commissioners.
Sure.
Commissioner Robinson, yes or no? Head shake will do.
I'm fine either way. We can postpone, that's fine. Those items.
So, based on the fact that while we have a quorum, the items of 6A, B, and C are items that it probably would be beneficial to have the entire commission present, then I certainly agree with us postponing that to the next meeting. So, City Clerk, please make note of that. Anything else to modify the agenda with this evening? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Commissioner Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Resnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mulholland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item on the agenda this evening is the Helene Milton recovery efforts, which is a standing agenda item. And if anybody has any comments that they would like to speak to this about after the presentations, you will certainly be recognized. It'd be necessary for you to fill out one of the yellow cards in order to be able to do that. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. Laura Canary, Community Development Director. So tonight we're going to be going through the recovery update. We're going to go over the permit processing to date, damage determinations, appeals, historic designations, and then some assistance that's available whether through the county or the state. Beginning with the permit processing, just want to remind everyone that currently in effect, we have a waiver until April 22nd for permit fees. Also, as part of our next steps in the process, we'll be sending letters to property owners, basically utilizing the list that we have of those property owners that have received assistance. And so we'll be marrying that up with those property owners that we have permits for. And so if we do not have a permit for a property, then we will be sending out a courtesy letter just letting them know that we do not have a permit or a permit applied for at this time. And of course, letting them know the date that that permit fee waiver will be until, whether it's the 22nd or if it is considered an extension, then we'll include that information as well. Going back to, again, the owner-builder applications, they must be signed in person, so please come in to do that if you haven't done that already. And then with regard to our inspectors, just a reminder that whether it is a city employee or a contracted employee, when they are out in the field, they will have an ID similar to what you see on the bottom of the screen. So if you have any questions, you can call that number, 727-367-2735. Again, they should have this identification, but if you have any questions or concerns, please call us. Looking at the numbers to date, we've had just about 3,500 applications submitted. Of those, we have received 213 that we've received that are in the process of going into a review state, 223 that are currently in review, and 2,563 that have been issued. For our daily average, the goal of 60, we are currently looking at an average of 32 a day. And talking to the team, just want to be mindful that as we get to this stage in the process, some of kind of the time, of course, is due to the amount of review, if there's additional information needed, so they simply can take a little bit longer. As far as I know, that one of the requests during the last update was looking at actual permits closed, and so to date, we have 68 of those that have been completed in totality. So we'll continue to report on that number moving forward. The daily average of inspections, we're looking at 79 a day on average. And then the primary challenges continue to persist. It's the same. We're waiting still on some of the data, that final batch of data, which I'll get into in just a moment. So the number that you see, the 2,883 with the 99%, that is, again, we are waiting on one last batch of data for those SD determinations. In speaking to the contractor, those all have been completed, so we should actually be having those in our hands by the end of the week, but they have already been conducted. It's just a matter of getting the data into our system and then being able to send out the letters. Of the SD letters that have been mailed, 1,512 have been deemed non-substantially damaged and 816 substantially damaged. We, of course, have broken that down by commercial and residential, which is what you see in the table underneath. And then we have 581 that are currently pending and in review. When it comes to the appeals, we have 728 appeals that have been submitted. So this can go either which way, whether someone has received an SD determination and they are looking to reverse it either which way, an appeal will be ignited. And so we have 86 that are in progress, 642 approved, and to date we have had no denials either which way. Historic designations, just wanting to show a snapshot of this since we know that we've received a high number of historic designations as it pertains to the FEMA regulations and what's required. And so this is going up until March 10th, so just there may have been a few that have been in the works since that date. But as of March 10th, we had 48 applications submitted, 36 approved that were actually designated, 9 pending, 8 needing additional information, and 3 that have been withdrawn. For certificates of appropriateness for demolition, we've received 12 applications, approved 11, and have 1 pending. And for restoration projects, 3 submitted, 2 approved, and 1 has been withdrawn. A reminder of the Elevate Florida program. To date, there have been 5.3 thousand applications received. There has been no deadline date determined up until this point. They will announce that when they have a deadline date, but as of right now, there is not a deadline date. Again, just looking at the breakdown a little bit closer, sorry, let me just go back. Just to kind of recap, last time, 2 weeks ago, we were at 4.9 thousand applications total. And then when you looked at the breakdown, it was just 1.9 thousand that were in Pinellas County. So you continue to see that correlation with total number and the amount in Pinellas County. Again, currently no application deadline. We want to let the community know that we do understand that there are some homeowners that have applied and they're waiting for an answer on this program, and so they're to really determine next steps. So we ask that you please just contact us and let us know that so that we can get that information into the portal. And then again, that's all that we need to be able to extend the permit time frame. And then we just need to be in communication as the property owner knows more and makes those determinations. But all that we need is that contact, and we're well aware of that is it, can be a delay in the process. For Pinellas County, there is an income-eligible hurricane home repair program. If you go to the website, pinellas.gov, and the URL is up there, you can learn additional information, and it actually outlines all of the AMI eligible income requirements, and it gives you a nice table to show, depending on how many are in your household, what that threshold may be. One thing that's very important to note is the total assessed value cannot exceed $375,000. This is up to $30,000. This is up to $30,000 in grant funding for repairs not covered by insurance or FEMA. And in talking to the program coordinator, they do not have a deadline yet for this application. They did highly encourage anyone to start the application process, and they're happy. All of the contact information is on the webpage, and they're happy to walk someone through the process, do like a pre-screening based on the income eligibility to see if it's worth them even starting the application. One other thing to note that was discussed during that meeting was that that funding that can be used even for things such as your deductible. There's individuals that have used that to go towards their deductible or intending to use that towards their deductible. The second item to note at the county level is that there was $813 million awarded through the CDBG DR funding, which is the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. They're going to be discussing and conducting a series of public meetings to decide how to best meet where the unmet needs are and where the gaps are. So there's going to be, the meetings are listed on this up on the screen, but the first meeting on April 7th, we do intend to have a presence there and have a city group of city team members, staff members, volunteers that we're gathering. So if anyone, especially St. Pete residents, are interested in coming, that is the first meeting that we intend to kind of, want to make sure that our voices are heard. There also, I didn't have all of the dates and information, but there also is going to be 2 virtual meetings, which will occur after the 24th, the North County meeting, and before the draft plan is brought to the commission. So again, just if you're able to, please come out because it's very important. And again, talking to our county partners, they really want to hear from the communities and where we're seeing the need. And that's all I have for this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner Woznicki.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, and actually one announcement, because I did attend the Elevate Florida webinar today, and they did give a deadline, just so everybody knows. It's due April 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So there is an official deadline now for Elevate Florida. And they currently have a little over 6,000 applications that came in, just for the public to know. They're holding a couple of different webinars throughout. There was 2 today, and I think they have on their site another webinar that's up and coming if anybody has questions about that application process. And a question, for historic designation, once a home is designated historic, what's the process that the city is doing on the permitting? For example, if someone already had an SISD letter prior to being designated, they still have that open permit. I've had a couple of residents that are kind of confused or been trying to get some permitting done but they are now locally historic designated, and it's conflicting with what's on the permitting office, not office, but the website. So just to put that out there, because I think some people are having some issues about like AC compressor elevations that are exceeding their roof line, but they're locally designated, and I just had mine done, so I'm not quite sure what that standard is, but I don't know if you have that answer, but maybe I'll just make a note of that, because it's come up this week a couple of times for me. And that's it.
Thank you. Yes, we have noted that, and we are working in a way to be able to address and simply close it out in the system, but still be able to keep that historical record, if that makes sense, to show how that progressed and the designation then occurred and why the SDSI was no longer relevant for the permitting process, but that you can still kind of see that historical information. So thank you, and thank you for the Elevate Florida. I did forget one more item on the Elevate Florida for the webinars, because I believe one was this evening from 5 to 6 p.m. They said that they will be putting those webinars up on the website. So they didn't know when. They said hopefully within a few days, but those will be up on the website too. I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Robinson or Mayor Petrella, I'll have a couple questions, but I'm going to throw it over your way right now. Commissioner Robinson, I guess you have a question since your hand's up.
Yeah, mute.
You need to unmute. Commissioner, we can't hear you.
Yes, I brought up the HVAC elevation the last meeting to get a determination on that. Where are we at on that currently?
So as it stands currently, we are still at the 1 foot above the elevation level. And so we did check with some of our neighboring communities to try and understand why there was different interpretations and how, we really want to try and get to a yes or an easier path. I mean, that is our goal, of course, to get people back into their homes, but back into their homes safely, and then, of course, to be able to follow the code accordingly. What was determined during what we found out from one of the neighboring communities was that there was an interpretation that it was being considered as a repair versus replacement, which can kind of trigger different things. And so in our case, what we've been, basing our understanding on and the interpretation on is a replacement, not a repair. And so as it stands for a replacement, it is still 1 foot above elevational flood level.
Is it for a replacement, though? My understanding is that is written for the the Florida State Code is written as a damage from storm or storm damage, not just a regular wear and tear replacement. And the reason I bring this up is because this is really important right now. We're getting hot. People need their AC. They're repairing their homes, and they want to be able to, get rid of humidity in their homes. And this needs to be prioritized as far as a determination on this, and we need to see if there's any gray area in it with where we can work within it.
Okay, we will definitely look further into it and also see, because as I said, we've also, there's other communities that are looking at it even different than what I said, that, one community it's 30 inches, another is 2 feet. So we will get that information and then be able to bring it back. And also, one of the things that was brought to my attention was that whatever is actual and factual, like a visual would be helpful for the community to help with that, understanding. Visual diagram is what I'm referring to.
So,
showing
when people submit for HVAC to provide a photo maybe and also a diagram?
No, I'm sorry. I meant on the city's side, that we would be able to show in a diagram, whatever that calculation is, how. So then again, you can at least begin, not that you'll necessarily have all of the LiDAR information and everything, but you can at least begin to have an understanding of how they're arriving at the numbers and to be able to look at that in a visual diagram format.
Well, I believe that the 6 The 6'8" is based on, from a height perspective, is based on basically the height of a door, so that you can pass underneath it. But yeah, any sort of diagram would be great. But again, this has to be a priority, because people are getting their air conditioners, and I keep getting repeated questions on this, and it is a very valid concern that we need to come up with something on this quickly.
Understood.
Anything else, Commissioner Robinson?
No, just HVAC for storm recovery right now.
Mayor Petrella? So, Ms. Cannery, I have a couple questions. One, I think we're going to talk about later, but so we've got some level of momentum for permits. Are we going to be able to sustain that, staffing-wise?
We believe so, if we're able to continue staffing at the current level. We anticipate that, you know, we don't want to just make the assumption that we're going to see another uptick, but just knowing where we're at in the process, and with this last batch of letters that are going to be going out, we feel very confident in saying that the current demand and what we have resource-wise will be adequate for at least for hopefully the next 6 months to a year.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, you spoke a little bit about the $813 million that apparently that's HUD funding that's been provided to Pinellas County. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it, and I think this is an important question for the community to understand, is it likely that all those dollars are not going to be able to be directed to broad community needs, but more targeted to specific residents within the county? Is that, am I making sense?
I think I understand your question, and I think that part of those workshops is to help determine that. Again, if it's a matter of allocating at the municipal level and then reallocating to, you know, even if it's using different thresholds. The one thing about the CDBG funding is, of course, you know, a lot of times it's thought of as correlated specifically with housing, but, you know, it can be used for infrastructure improvements as well. And so I think that that's where, through those engagements, that I hope that they're going to hear from the community members as far as what the greater need is, whether it's for infrastructure in their community or improvements or resiliency improvements, and or if it's instead additional funding allocations that are cycled down, you know, through the county, then to the city, and then to the individuals. But I think that all of that is yet to be determined.
So I'm just kind of talking off the cuff here. When I hear HUD, I shudder a little bit. When I hear anything to do with Washington, D.C., I shudder a little bit. Is it conceivable that this almost $1 trillion that is coming to Pinellas County from HUD might be targeted as a gross up for people that maybe have already received unemployment benefits, have already received FEMA benefits? Is that a possibility that this funding could end up being stacked on top of that, and that the needs of the broader communities could potentially, without, as I'm hearing it, without serious community input to try to direct some of these funds, that is possible? For example, we may get very little help for our infrastructure that was severely damaged during the storms, but rather we're going to stack on top of safety net programs that are already in place. You care to comment on that? or is that a little bit more political than you want to comment on?
Well, what I will say is I'll say that in the discussions that I had more focused on the Elevate Florida program in particular. One of the questions that I had asked was, well, for the benefit of the public and you all, one of the items that was asked from Pinellas County, because of the Elevate program being a new program, is if any of the communities, if they desired through their local mitigation strategy, LMS, and the funding there, and there's the hazard mitigation grant program, which has its own allocation. If the county would like to reallocate back to the Elevate Florida any of the funds that they've received of that, I think along the lines of the concern that you were just talking about, that because Pinellas County having almost half of those applications, I think again, as great as a program as it is or may be, I think the concern was, will we see those funds come back to the Pinellas County necessarily? I think we just have that extra layer when you think about the county and now the municipality. All the more reason why I think it's very important for the community and stakeholders to show up and to voice their concerns and also their thoughts on the best way to make sure that those dollars get closer to home when they are allocated and or reallocated.
I'm
Vice
sorry.
Mayor, if I may comment, so I did attend one of the county's first presentations at the Big C a couple weeks ago, and some facts that the public should understand is that this CDBG funding, it does have income restrictions. 70% of that $813 million has to be allocated to those in the low and moderate income designations, and that can be done at the individual level. That could be done at a community or neighborhood level. So that leaves 30% with no income restrictions. And then you go into the category types that we could ask for. Infrastructure is one of those. So when Laura mentioned we are trying to organize a group to go to this community meeting that is not just public officials representing the city, but actual residents. And we're going to try to pull them together before that meeting to decide, do we want to really focus on a particular infrastructure project that was damaged by the storms? Do we want to focus on individual contributions such as Elevate Florida? We could probably get data to show how many people in this community have applied, but it's going to take a very strong voice to impact, I think, this plan for the barrier islands. So I think I'm encouraging anyone who's interested, reach out to Laura. She is putting together a group, and we're even looking at the possibility of transportation using some of the city shuttles and going up as a larger entity to represent the city.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. And thank you, ma'am. Whenever I see HUD and Washington, D.C., I just, and that kind of money, it's, I'm very suspect, let's just put it that way. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor, we do have part 2 to this presentation. Public Services Director Camden Mills was going to give you a brief update on some particular infrastructure projects that are happening related to the storms.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Camden Mills, Public Services Director. I appreciate the opportunity this evening to give an update on some of the capital improvements and infrastructure maintenance efforts that are currently underway, especially as we are approaching the next storm season. So some of the capital improvements that we're working on currently related to our facilities, as you can see, our City Hall, our Community Center, Fire Station 23, the Public Services, and our Warren Webster building. Right now, at this stage, we have finalized the cost estimates from our contractor for the roof repairs. That's the item that we're bringing on forward tonight. And we're getting pretty close to finalizing the cost estimates or the actual contractor costs for all the building repairs. And we anticipate having those in hand in early April and then bringing those to commission for approval as well. And also working on the demolition and moving some of those forward for a few of our facilities. Fire Station 22 was recently approved by commission. So we're working with, through all the FEMA requirements and making sure we're jumping through all the hoops there to see that forward. And then also starting to move forward the Mary Pier Bait Shack and the Shuffleboard Club. Both of those buildings were deemed condemned by our building official and were brought forward to the historical board in January. So in the next coming months, we'll be moving forward on the process of evaluating that demolition and bringing that to approval for commission. Next, to talk about some of our marine structures. Our 36th Avenue in the Don Cesar neighborhood. We had budgeted in our fiscal year 25 program to replace the seawall and install a living shoreline. The design and permitting for that project is complete. The bid package is drafted, and we plan on putting that on the streets shortly. Same with our dune walkovers at 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 51st, and 52nd. The 51st and 52nd Avenues were already replacement scheduled in our CIP program. 4th, 6th, and 7th are replacements related to Hurricane Idalia, where we have an active FEMA project. And then 2nd and 3rd is related to Hurricane Helene, where we also have a new FEMA project. And then the Golfway Beach Wall. Previously discussed that this is one of our priorities that we want to get taken care of as soon as possible. We've completed our inspection with FEMA and identified the damage with them, and we've had an engineer inspector or an engineer consultant specify what they propose for the replacement, and right now they're working on a scope of work package that we can advertise for a competitive bid for construction. So we plan to put that bid on the streets here in the coming weeks. Related to parks and recreation, we have our community center pool resurfacing. Again, that was a project that was already budgeted in our fiscal year program that we're currently moving forward with. The Egan Park, with that, we just issued a purchase order for the soil sampling to determine if there is any remediation work associated with using that property as our disaster debris management site. Once that soil sampling is completed, we plan to solicit a bid for sod replacement and irrigation repairs, and then we'll close out our environmental permits with the state. And then lastly is Lazarillo Park. This again was an existing CIP project. Purchase order was issued prior to the storms to replace the lights at the tennis court. So right now that project is in the permitting phase. Getting into our streets, 7th and 8th Avenue alleyway, that was proposed to be reconstructed as part of our fiscal year 25 program. The design is complete for that, so we plan on advertising a bid for construction services. And then the Gulf Boulevard undergrounding, currently still underway with the phase 1 construction. We anticipate that will go on into the beginning of calendar year 2026. And then we're also working on moving forward the phase 2 so we can utilize the rest of the penny for Pinellas funding. We have an engineer consultant that is drafting the scope of work for construction services, and that'll be hitting the streets soon. Stormwater related, both of these projects were existing projects in our capital budget. The Bella Vista neighborhood as well as the Don Cesar neighborhood, improving some of the outfalls with tie check valves and baffle structures. The Bella Vista project, the design is completed, and the Don Cesar project is about 90% complete. So once the Don Cesar wraps up, we'll be packaging these up together for construction bids. And then related to our wastewater, our main focus here is continuing with our lift station rehabilitation. At this stage, all temporary control panels have been installed, and the portable bypass pumps have all been demobilized. So at this stage, we are starting to get repaired pumps back from the manufacturers, and we're swapping those out. So we're making pretty good progress in our lift station rehabilitation to where those lift stations are closely working back to pre-storm conditions. And then, of course, our Pump Station 1 rehabilitation project. I added an asterisk in here Just to point out that this project is related to the job growth grant that we have for $2 million from the state. And right now with this project, we have purchased all of the owner equipment that we were getting, so our pump package, our odor control package, and our backup generator. The cost of those hit that $2 million limit, so in early April, we will be requesting reimbursement from the state to get those funds back into our budget. And then turning away from capital and more into infrastructure maintenance. So back to the marine structures, these seawalls listed here were either damaged by the storms or had some erosion issues prior to the storms. Currently, we have a bid out for construction services for as-needed seawall repairs. So once that contract is approved and signed, we'll move forward with completing some of these seawall repairs. And then as streets, we're continuing with asphalt patches as reclaim services are repaired, as well as concrete repairs and traffic signage replacements. Stormwater maintenance, we have an engineer that's currently drafting a scope of services for a system-wide collection system, cleaning and inspection. We've touched base on this before, but this will be to clean the entire system from any storm damage, as well as help TV the system so we can identify where repairs need to be prioritized. Next, the baffle boxes, tide check valves, and manatee grates cleaning. We have just recently completed an inspection and cleaning of all of these structures. Based on the report that we get back from that contractor, we're going to use that information to update a scope of services for a bid so we can have continual long-term maintenance. That'll be a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to renew. Outfall repairs, as we start to see outfalls that were damaged by the storm, we're performing those emergency repairs out of our operations. And then emergency flood pump. We've noticed in some of the areas where we have the tidal check valves, if we have an instance where it's a high tide and we have a rain event, some of that water is trapped in the road until the tide can lower and those tide check valves can function. So we plan to purchase an emergency pump that we can deploy during those instances to help pump down those roadway intersections. Right now we're starting with the one pump and kind of see how that process goes, and then from there, in our fiscal year 26 budget, we request additional operation funding if that's successful. And then moving into our wastewater, similarly with stormwater, we're proposing a system-wide collection system cleaning and inspection. Right now, that scope of work is being drafted, and we plan on putting it on the street soon. We're actively working on sewer manhole lid replacements, as well as continuing emergency repairs to service laterals and our gravity mains. Next are just some tables of some of the active bids and proposals that we're currently working on. So you can see here on the right some of the upcoming dates for these. Our concrete brick mortar replacement, that closed on 3/5. We have selected a vendor, and we'll be bringing that to commission in April for approval. Our enterprise fund rate analysis, that had also closed as well, so staff is currently evaluating that. The pumping and tankering contract, we plan on bringing that to commission for approval in April as well. And then, as I mentioned, the as-needed seawall repairs in that 36th Avenue seawall replacement project are currently open and on the streets, as well as our on-call engineering consultant services contract. And then next, I list some of the upcoming bids and proposals that we're working on. A lot of these I briefly touched on. But our asphalt patching services, street paving, the recreation center seawall. This is a project that was in our fiscal year 25 budget and has some grant funding from the Florida Department of Emergency Management, as well as FDEP. And then our watershed management plan, again, that was another project that was budgeted in our fiscal year 25 program, where the scope of work has been drafted and we're currently working on the bid package. And then here you can see just some more of the upcoming bids and proposals that our staff and consultants are working on, so we can help move some of these capital projects and infrastructure maintenance forward.
Consent. Yeah, that's fine.
The Paso Grill Way seawall rehabilitation. This is one where we are procuring for a design build contract team. And again, we have an engineer consultant that's drafting the scope of work for that project. The lift station rehabilitation and mitigation, this will be for the permanent control panels as well as the mitigation efforts that we're proposing at 3 of our lift stations to raise the equipment and install backup generators. This is a slide that I've been showing reoccurring just to give you an update on where we're at with the FEMA process. So previously we were in the phase 2 where we were completing our site inspections and identifying our damage. At this point we have moved past that phase. All of our damage information that's been submitted and reviewed by FEMA, the deadline for that was on the 14th. So we were able to submit all that information in time for FEMA's review. So right now we're at the stage where FEMA is developing the detailed damage descriptions. Staff is reviewing and approving if everything checks out, and then we're moving into the scope of work development. So soon we will be moving into the next phase of final cost development with FEMA. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Commissioner Wisniewski?
Just one comment, because you mentioned for Lazarillo Park for the lighting. I know this was like maybe last year's project, but one of the steps, and you might not be aware of it, Camden, was we had osprey nests that was on that light fixture, and they went ahead and they put a platform offside so that the osprey would move its nest. Well, now we have 2 nests, one on the platform and still on that old light. So I don't know what the process is, who you could reach out to, because you said it was in permitting. So, you know, I would be up in arms as well as many of the residents who watch these birds. There's babies there right now, so you might need to take that into consideration.
I appreciate you bringing that up. We are aware of that, and we will go through the proper environmental process to make sure that those are relocated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson, you have anything? Mayor Petrella? So that leaves me, I guess. 2 quick questions. So the Mary Pier Bait Shop, there's a lot of support for keeping that. I would just ask, before we move the excavators down there to tear it down, that we're certain that we've worked through the community. There's a lot of people that want to volunteer time and money to try to fix, rehabilitate, or replace that. I would just ask that we're certain that we've done our due diligence on where we're at with that before the excavators show up down there.
Yes,
so
sir.
I would just ask that. And I believe that you're on that, but I think it's important that people understand that that place is important to the community. The second thing I have, and I've said this many times up here, in fact, I think I said it to the chief at the last meeting or the meeting before, I'm not an engineer. And I didn't stay at Holiday Inn last night. But I was at a community meeting last night that somebody brought up a point as it related to the temporary protective structures that are anticipated to go in place on Gulf Way, 1st, 8th, or in that vicinity. And 2 gentlemen that were at the meeting made a very good point, because it's been my understanding all along that the permanent replacement as well as the temporary protective measures that are going to go in place for 1st, 8th to protect those new dunes down there, that they will be, in both instances, that they will be seaward of the boardwalk as opposed to landward of the boardwalk. But the point was brought up, and these were people that didn't leave for the storm, or one of the storms at least, Helene, the flooding event, that the walkover areas created a massive flooding or funneling of the water through the openings there. And the point was made to me that if we're going to put temporary structures there, Jersey barriers, you name it, and I'm sure the engineers would have already been on top of this, and I'm sure you would have been already on top of it, that those openings have like a T structure, a set of Jersey barriers that would slow the water down coming through those openings as opposed to rushing through them. Because if we put Jersey barriers the whole way seaward side of 1st to 8th on the boardwalk, but we leave those openings, we're going to create a funneling for the water to come through, Lord forbid, if we have another event this year similar to that. So the request was made that we consider putting a blocking device at those openings as well. So I had asked the two gentlemen to, as I often do, send an email to you or the appropriate department and copy me when I hear a good idea or an idea that I think somebody really wants to get across, and that was my suggestion. I did not see that email today, so I figured since you were here that I would bring it up. So I would just ask that you consider that in the calculus of everything that we do with that down there.
Yes, sir. We'll certainly consider that.
And that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, do we have any audience comments on the recovery efforts, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you. And then next we have general audience comments. I would ask that anybody in attendance that wants to make comments, turn your yellow card into the clerk. If it's an item that's on the agenda, I would ask that you reframe and wait until that item appears or we start discussing it, and you'd be given an opportunity at that point to speak out about those items. So at this point, do we have any general audience comments, Madam Clerk?
We do. John Kurzman.
Yes. Can I have the projector, please? John Kurzman, B. Honda Way. Couple things. First, on the beach ordinance, I want to thank everyone who put an effort into this ordinance. It's been going on for a long time, but it isn't the same ordinance that we started with, or the same goals we started with 3 years ago. It's gone through a lot of iterations. The staff has changed. The rules have changed because the state, came in and made the requirement of a business impact estimate, and that put a hold on the whole project back then. And also a lot of other things have happened. But so there were many changes. Some of them are noticeable, some of them aren't. And it's not the fault, and the staff has changed, so many different things. And there's only 2 of the people on the current beach stewardship that are even the same, although we do have some of the stewards still involved, but it's not your primary focus the way it was. For instance, just even on sleeping, an item went from being in the waterway section. Nobody was sleeping on the beach or parks in the waterways, but that's where it was. Didn't make sense. So it made sense to try to move it, but the last staff that were working on the project only moved it to the park section. So they, of course, removed the part about the beaches from the parks part, but they didn't put in the part about the beaches. So, the protections for the beach and the protections for lot M and N weren't even in this first or second reading. But all these things didn't get caught because they just sort of crossed everything out and then expected someone to notice. I actually did the actual redlining because they never did the redlining the way normally would expect to see it, where you actually see the changes. And I've now submitted and provided the 81 notes to the city so they can look at that. But again, we really need a process where we can see the changes and let the public see the changes. And so I'm speaking for myself to say, I think it's important that we do have another workshop or time to let people see the individual changes that occur. And things have changed over time. This was an article that happened recently about the different beaches around Florida and what they do about alcohol. You know, because the question is, are we worried about people actually drinking, or are we worried about people being, drunk? Or are we worried about attracting people during spring break? Some beaches have said no drinking during spring break. Some have said, many have said no glass. There's different approaches. But we've got, I think, hotels wanting to come to the table and sit down with us. This process has helped. We had a room full of people at the last reading. We had actually owners of major hotels come to the beach stewardship meeting. They want to work together. I'm asking, let's try to do a meeting to be constructive together.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's all I have. For a consent agenda? Did you want to come forward?
So do we have a card?
Good evening, Deborah Schechner, Bocasiega Isle Drive in St. Pete Beach. I'm assuming the city has insurance for that request from the city manager, or I know we have insurance on our buildings. Are they covering some of the damages that we've had? But you can, obviously, get into that later. Tourists are here, so I'm going to ask everybody to be extra careful, and I will tell you that they're not very good at crossing the street at night in dark clothes. I do hope we are rebuilding our historic area for people to continue to play shuffleboard. We do have groups that play there, and I hope we're not going to tear down and not rebuild. And that really is the size of a shed. I'm sure the surfaces need to be done, but that's the size of a shed. Can't be too hard to do. So I had some people visiting, and they said to me, the area doesn't look so bad. In their perspective, because there are still houses standing. They don't understand that those houses are empty and damaged. And I really think that I would appreciate a public PR program, talk to news stations, newspapers, social media, that we still have thousands of people who are not in their homes. Everybody thinks everything is going well in St. Pete Beach and people are back in their home. Well, they're not. And the public needs to know that. And I say that because maybe more funding will come in. Maybe people will get extra money to continue to pay the rent where they are, because I'm not sure how much longer that lasts. Someone told me it might be mid-April. So where are those people supposed to go? We need to keep this on the mind of the public and the government. And, quite frankly, I think the county needs to step up a bit and help us out a lot more than they are. I'm very disappointed that in their lack of interest in getting all of this fixed, that $318 million is not county money. That money comes from somewhere else. Maybe they should match it. I don't know. And pre-storm pump stations, we're not doing well. And, as evidence from the storm, it was really disgusting for most people to have to clean that up. And I wondered, under these extenuating circumstances, is that penny for Pinellas undergrounding, we can request that that money be spent on our infrastructure that's necessary and vital. And maybe the county will allow that. I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to make one comment. As it relates to the shuffleboard, I will say this, because the Mary Pier and shuffleboard are, only a couple, 300 feet from one another. the only feedback I've received as it relates to the shuffleboard has been that it looks terrible and needs to be removed. I have not, and not that there aren't people out there that don't want it rebuilt. I have not had a single resident, either in my district or in the city, reach out to me and say, hey, this is important to us. I've had many reach out to me about Mary Pier. I'm just making that comment because Ms. Snechter, you know, referenced the shuffleboard. I'm perfectly willing to advocate for the shuffleboard if enough people want it, but I'm putting it out there that thus far I have received no feedback to save the shuffleboard facility and rebuild it, and I received considerable for the Mary Pier Bait Shop. So I just wanted to take that opportunity and make that comment. Madam Clerk, any other yellow cards?
Linda Llewellyn.
Disappointing that half the room's not here tonight. Linda Llewellyn, 82802 Pass-a-Grill Way. Last week, I attended the comprehensive plan meeting. It was over at the city, whatever they call it, the city...
Community Center.
Yeah,
Dr. Linda, could I ask you to do me a favor? Sure. Could you pull that microphone just a little closer to you? Thank you very much.
The meeting was attended by Calvin Gerardo and Associates. They were hired by the city, as you know. Ms. Contreras, how are you tonight? To assist in drawing up with a future comprehensive plan. I'm not sure if anyone has been over to the historic district in Tampa, but they have a real historic district over in that part of the Tampa Bay area. There are homes that are size and scale. They're architecturally compliant with the historic district that it is. That remark is made in the context of the horrors, monstrosities, out of size and scale that are being built currently, as we're standing here, in Pass-a-Grill, the other historic district here in St. Pete Beach. It's an absolute horror. Why is this happening? How did this happen? We've got somebody who's supposed to be helping us with a comprehensive plan, but all we're looking at are 15,000 square foot homes on 6,000 square foot lots. That's absurd. Absolutely absurd. It's beyond my comprehension how the city has allowed this to continue, because with the hurricanes, of course, a lot of houses have been demolished, and this is going to continue. Where does it stop? It is you guys who needs to stop it. Okay, I'm going to take advantage of this time right now. As you know, there's question about what's going on in Corey what do they call it? Corey Landings. That was 243 units, brought it down to 162. Unfortunately, Ms. Robinson's not here tonight. However, I have the paperwork, and I'm happy to provide it to her, that shows that there were, in fact, approved for 70 units in the beginning. 70 condominium units, 54 to 60 transient hotels, and 18,000 square feet of commercial area. That is appropriate for a piece of land that is, I believe it's 4.8 or could be 4.5 acres. That's a very teeny piece of land. When you want to put in 160 units, you've got to be kidding. The traffic, these are going to be just out of scale and out of line once again. And that's on you. We are losing paradise in this area because of the people on this commission right now. And it is very, very infuriating. Furious is my word, Mr. Petrillo. I'll take it back now. I hope you'll take this to heart, and I hope that you'll do something about it, because those things that are being constructed in the historic district on Pass-a-Grill, as you all know, are way out of line. One last comment. I'd like to make it the community aware. Well, can I finish?
Sure.
It's up to you.
We have a small crowd. Go ahead.
Thank you. That the head of FEMA in this country, the United States, has a budget of $300 million. She is paid less than the city manager for this little teeny city of St. Pete Beach. $250,000. The head of FEMA, the person that we're all beholden to this right now. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Any other cards?
Anybody else?
No.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Vice Mayor, I think Commissioner Robinson wanted to discuss an item on consent. Her hand's up. You're muted.
For transparency purposes, I just wanted to bring up the item for the elevators. I know we all had some questions that got answered, and I would like the public to be aware of those questions and the subsequent answers to those. Since that is a large spend of $570,000.
Right. Madam Clerk, or I'm sorry, Madam City Manager, is it appropriate to request that that email be entered into the record, or would you prefer to handle this a different way?
I could enter it into the record. I could do it verbally and then also provide it to the city clerk.
Whatever works and satisfies the commissioner, I'm fine with.
Just a point of order, is it okay if I do that before?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So we had a question about what did modernization of the elevators mean, and were they inoperable, and whether or not they met current building codes in their current state. They are not operable currently, and they do not meet today's current building codes. Second question, why is the elevator at Fire Station 23 so much more expensive than the Public Services Building elevator? Fire Station 23 is the oldest of all the elevators, 41 years old, and does not meet today's codes and standards. The mechanical room is on the ground floor, and the equipment to operate the elevator needs to be replaced and raised as best as possible within the footprint that is currently there. Question number 3, what will be the storage cost to stage the project for Fire Station 23? No fee will be incurred. They need to have full access under the building while they work. They will be bringing in the equipment that will be replaced each week until the project is complete. Question number 4, how much of the cost to complete the project is being covered by insurance? Will the construction costs be 100% recoverable? We have sent this to insurance for review and have not received a response yet. Our plan is it was insured. Our plan is we've already submitted the claim, and whatever is not covered by insurance, we will submit to FEMA for reimbursement request. Question number 5, is the new equipment any more resilient and resistant to flood damage than the prior equipment? The answer, no. It's all electric and a hydraulic system. The system cannot be changed to a cable pulley system. The shaft dimensions do not meet today's requirement. A minimum requirement is to have a 5-foot pit, and we only have 4-foot pits. Trying to convert to a cable pulley system would also compromise the structural integrity of the building. That's the end of the questions.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, do we need a new motion, or is our standing motion and second good for a vote?
It's good for a vote. You can go to a roll call.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mulholland?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, before we move into action items, I'm going to adjourn the meeting until 7:15. We're currently adjourned. Going to reconvene the City Commission meeting. Our next item on the agenda is adoption of Resolution 2025-07. City Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
I will.
Actually, Vice Mayor, I added action item 6D, which now would be 6A because the agenda was amended to remove action items 6A, B, and C. So if I could go next, that would be great.
Not a problem. I think we can handle that. So, Madam City Manager, if you would tell us about I guess it's Cotton Mobile.
Yes, Vice Mayor, City Commission, and community members. I'm actually going to read in more detail to the record because this is a walk-on item, so I want to be clear of what's happening. Tonight, I'm asking that the commission move to approve a service agreement with Cotton Global Disaster Solutions in the amount of $2,155,702.81 for various city facility repairs damaged by Hurricane Milton, and authorize the city manager to execute a service agreement. On October 9th, 2024, Hurricane Milton made landfall in the state of Florida, causing catastrophic wind damage. The roofs of the following city facilities were impacted. The Aquatic Center at $46,800.76. City Hall at $725,200.32. The Community Center and Breezeway totaling $572,776.23. The Haran Park Pavilion totaling $114,778. The Public Services Facility Building totaling $661,512.05. And the Warren Webster Building totaling $34,635.45. All roof replacements will include mitigation measures. The Warren Webster roof will be replaced with stronger shingles. All other facilities will be replaced with metal roofs that resemble the existing decorative barrel tile roofs, which a picture has been entered into the record. In addition, the Public Services roof height will be raised over the service bays in accordance with the completed engineering design for the budgeted fiscal year 2025 capital improvement project. Following hurricanes Helene and Milton, city staff have worked with Cotton Global Disaster Solutions under the current executive order for mitigation, remediation, damage assessment, FEMA site inspections, insurance coordination, and construction scopes of work for all damaged facilities. The State of Florida Executive Order number 24-214, Hurricane Milton, declares a state of emergency in Pinellas County and outlines emergency procurement requirements. Executive Order number 25-26 extends this declaration until March 31st, 2025. City staff is requesting approval of the facilities repairs service agreement prior to the expiration of the executive order extension for Hurricane Milton on March 31st, 2025 to avoid further delays in restoring our roof structures prior to the next hurricane season. The planned funding, all of these facilities were insured and have been submitted for insurance reimbursement, and any remaining unfunded insurance coverage would be then subsequently submitted for FEMA reimbursements. And our Public Services Director, Camden Mills, is here to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioner Robinson, any questions? I see your hand, but I don't hear your voice.
You're still muted.
The $2,155,700 and some odd dollars And that is not taking into consideration what is covered under insurance, is that correct?
That is the total cost for the repairs. That doesn't account for what would be included for insurance. Yep, that,
Just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Woznicki?
Just a question, and maybe I forgot from the last time we talked about roof replacements, because I didn't see the Suntan Art Center listed. Is there a reason why that one's not listed in the repairs of the roofs?
The reason for that is the damage to the roofs was a pre-storm condition. So really the purpose of what tonight is to make sure we're complying with all the FEMA guidelines in case that we do need FEMA reimbursement for these facilities. We wouldn't be pursuing that for the Suntan's Art Center's roof.
And then the other question, is this something that needs to be bid out? Like, like, why do we choose Cotton Global? Is it specifically because that company was working on mitigation already with us?
Correct, yes, because we've had extension work with this company, dating back all the way from October. Staff feels comfortable moving forward with this company, and under the current declaration, we wouldn't have to bid this work out.
Thank you.
Mayor Petrella? So, Mr. Mills, how did we arrive at the barrel tile metal? I'm just curious. I mean, obviously, it should be a great product. Based on the price, it ought to be a fabulous product. How did we arrive there rather than replacing with clay tiles or ceramic tiles or flat metal roofing as opposed to barrel tile roofing?
We went with the metal roofing for one, just to add the mitigation measure, be a little bit stronger than what we have currently. And then the reasoning for going the ones that match the decorative barrel tile was just consistency, trying to resemble the look that we currently have.
Yeah. Did we even get estimates doing it without the metal?
No, sir.
The clay tile or flat metal?
No, sir. But given the numbers that we have for this decorative type metal roofing, this would be the highest cost. So if we did want to make a change down the road and go to a flat metal roof, we would anticipate that would be a deduction in cost. So we wanted to bring forward today, the most conservative estimate for this contract.
And this is, assuming we approve this tonight, I mean, this is the path we're going down. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
And I mean, out of pocket to the city, as I understand it, appears to be, in the grand scheme of things, as it relates to the total cost of the project, it's not all that much out of pocket cost to the city.
That's the goal. Yeah, our goal is to pursue insurance as much as we can, and then have FEMA for our deductible.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying we're doing a bad thing, but if I had the need to re-roof my own home, I would be asking these exact same questions. So that's why I'm, asking them. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, commissioners? Mr. Mayor? Do you have a motion?
I'll move to approve the service agreement with Cotton Global Disaster Solutions in the amount of $2,155,702.81 for various city facility repairs.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mulholland?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So now our next item, I believe, is Resolution 2025-7. City Clerk, would you read the resolution, please?
A resolution of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Paso Grill Community Church Incorporated, doing business as the Montessori by the Sea School, for the purpose of accepting partial funding from the school towards the purchase of playground equipment at Hurley Park, located at 1501 Paso Grill Way within the City of St. Pete Beach, and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Project Innovations Incorporated for construction of the playground.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mandy Edmonds, Acting Recreation Director. Got a quick PowerPoint presentation to show you on this, this actual item. So this is the Hurley Park Playground. The project history, back in 2015, the Hurley Park Playground was removed. We went through multiple visits to the Historic Preservation Board. We've met with prior commissions, and now where we're at in 2025 is the Historic Preservation Board. We just had a meeting presentation a couple of weeks ago where they gave approval to move forward with the design and the purchase of the equipment. The funding for this project, the playground equipment is budgeted and funded through the CIP budget. The total budgeted amount from the 2025 CIP budget was $140,000. The quoted playground equipment and surfacing costs came in at $99,540.60. The Montessori contribution under an agreement will be for $37,500, which means the amount taken out of that 140 is going to be $62,040.60. That remaining playground funding from the CIP will be allocated at Commission's discretion towards priority projects. That's going to be in the amount of $77,959.40. This is the playground design and location. So some of the play features include a hammock, some slides, a mini climber, loop ladder, lemonade game counter, and umbrella roof. Everything meets playground safety standards. The location is going to be on the southwest corner of the existing pavilion, between the pavilion and the basketball and pickleball court, behind the left field fence. Staff recommends to adopt Resolution 2025-07 to include the City Commission to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Paso Grill Community Church, Montessori by the Sea School, for the purpose of accepting funding in the amount of $37,500 from Montessori by the Sea to be applied towards the purchase of playground equipment. The City Commission also to authorize the city manager to enter into a service agreement with Project Innovations for construction of the playground. Any questions?
Commissioner Robinson?
My question, Mandy, would be, is there any allocation for shade areas? Is any of this playground shaded?
Yes, let me go back at the top of the playground. You'll see at the platform there is a shade structure already built into this. Outside of that, then no, there is not any additional shading in that area.
Mayor Petrella? I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
I do. Denise Chase.
Hi, Commission. Denise Chase, 46th Avenue, St. Pete Beach. I'm just so happy to be here tonight to share gratitude and excitement that we're finally at the stage after nearly 10 years to see this project to fruition. I think it's important to note the delay has not been for lack of support from the community. We've had multiple 5-0 votes from Commission, Historic Preservation Boards, and certainly a loud voice and support from residents that Hurley Park is a park for recreation, one that a playground was always meant to be at and just hasn't been yet replaced. So there are so many kids that would be ecstatic to be here right now, ready to play, and their families, but bedtime ruled. So I'm here on their behalf as well as representing the School Board of Montessori, and respectfully ask for your support in approving this project. Thank you.
Deb Schechter.
Deborah Scheckner, Pocasega Isle Drive in St. Pete Beach. When the construction company destroyed the park because they needed a space for storage and staging, I thought that they were going to replace the park. I thought that was part of the agreement. So for the Montessori school to step up with that amount of money, I think is amazing, and I think the city should approve it. We need green space, we need places for kids to play, and I do hope there's swings in this playground too, because I think swings are kind of important to kids. Thanks.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I motion to adopt resolution 2025
Before we,
Oh, I have no questions, no, sorry.
okay. I didn't call for a motion just yet.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Robinson, anything you have to add or questions, follow-up questions? Mr. Mayor?
I think this is a great project. I second what's been said about the Montessori school. It's incredibly impressive what they were able to do, and you know, anything that we can do to move this forward, I would be in favor for.
Well, that's all really good to hear. When I saw this was on the agenda for this evening, I struggled with it mightily. Pre-storm, I absolutely supported this project. I thought that it was something that fell through the cracks for many reasons over the years. And then when I saw that it was going to be on the agenda for this meeting, as I've been accused of being a budget hawk, the city has so many needs post-storm. I was concerned that, you know, with so many issues, that with this, even though there's a wonderful contribution from the Montessori school, was this the right thing to be doing? And I was personally struggling with that, so I did as much of a community outreach as I could possibly do without using Nextdoor. I think you all understand my feelings on Nextdoor these days. But I did reach out to the associations. I reached out to Ms. Chase. I wanted everybody to understand that it wasn't a slam dunk in my mind, because I thought that the city has so many great needs currently. And much of that we're going to be relying on funding that we hope comes, but we don't know will come. As a result of the outreach that I did, I had, I don't know, probably 25 people reach out to me wanting it. Of those, probably 3 or 4 were not residents of St. Pete Beach. And, you know, quite honestly, I don't weigh outside residents nearly as heavily as I weigh the residents' opinions. Of the, let's call it 20 people that reached out to me that were pro, I want to say 17 had some affiliation with the school. So, you know, clearly it was important to them. They were organized, and I recognized that, but I also wanted, when I entered my mental deliberations, I wanted to be certain that I weighed all the factors, and I did recognize that the school was, you know, and has been desiring for this to happen for a long, long time, and they have put their money where their mouth is. So about 17 plus or minus folks with an affiliation that are residents of St. Pete Beach reached out to me. I had probably another 3 residents that did not appear to have any particular direct connections to the school, but their opinions were more related to, they just thought that the park was a good idea. And I only had 1 resident that reached out to me that expressed some of the concerns that I had, that you know, do we need to be spending on this right now? So I feel like I've done my due diligence on it. I still have concerns about the city. This was a concern pre-storm, those of you that have been paying attention, that, you know, we've spent a lot of money in this city over the years on things that are nice to have, not need to have. And unlike the vast majority, I am not 100% certain that this is a absolute need to have under the circumstances, but based on the feedback that I've had both from the commission here tonight, as well as from the residents that reached out to me, that I do intend to support it. But I think it's important anytime that we have these things that come forward, we need to ask ourselves, is it a nice to have or is it a need to have? And many people would say it's a need to have because it's for the mental well-being of the young folks and the children. So I just wanted to add that, and I hope moving forward that any of these type projects, until this city gets its fiscal issues, particularly as a result of the storm, but also a result of some of the prior mismanagement, that we ask ourselves that question, anything that comes before us. Is it a nice to have or a need to have? So I did want to take this opportunity to express my feelings about that, but I will support this project for the reasons I've outlined. Do we have a motion?
And can I just add one little thing to that? I do think it's a need, because you mentioned mental health. The mental health of kids and adults, I think it's extremely important. And this has been going on for 10 years. I mean, I remember sitting in this audience listening to when they decided not to put the park, and I thought that was a real bad decision then. So it's definitely a need. So with that, I motion to adopt Resolution 2025-07.
Second?
Commissioner Robinson? We couldn't hear you, but I think that was a yes.
You've done that. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mulholland?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2025-08. City Clerk, would you please read?
Resolution 2025-08, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, amending the personnel rules and regulations for limited duration temporary employees and providing for an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. Jill Sassone, Human Resources Director. I'm here tonight to discuss a staffing strategy for community development. So we're proposing what's called a limited duration temporary employment agreement. Post-Hurricane Helene and Milton, the Federal Disaster Emergency Management Agency provided us with emergency response permit technicians as support for the organization and the citizens. So this contract is coming up to expire on April 11th of 2025. When that contract expires, we need a creative way to retain these critical team members. And we're proposing creating a new employee category titled Limited Duration Temporary Employee. So in our personnel rules and regulations, we have regular full-time employee, part-time employee, temporary employee, and the new classification would be limited duration temporary employee. So downstairs in our community development department, we have 7 qualified and fully trained staff performing this job now from Federal Disaster Emergency Management. And we're seeking your approval for the city manager to hire these 7 staff utilizing the limited temporary employment agreement where no competitive process is required for recruitment. There are some key policy points that I'd like to point out and share They're also included in the agenda report, and they're also stated in the resolution that you have a copy of. But the limited duration for this particular policy is up to and no longer than 12 months. These limited duration temporary employees would be fully benefited positions. So whereas our regular normal temporary positions that are seasonal in nature are not eligible for benefits, these positions would be eligible for group medical insurance, dental vision, PTO days, and retirement. The requirement for a competitive recruitment process, there will be a requirement for a competitive recruitment if in fact these positions are later approved in the budget, so that just because somebody's in a limited duration temporary employment position today doesn't mean that that position's granted to them. They would then have to go through the competitive recruitment process for that. The other thing that I'd like to state is that incumbents in these temporary positions will follow the same rules and policies for temporary personnel that are already located in the city's personnel rules and regulations. Oh, I'm not keeping it. So the financial implications that I'd like to share with you this evening is for 7 permit technicians. For 6 months, the financial implication would be $264,652. And for 1 full year, because it's no longer up to 12 months, the total cost would be $529,304. And as I mentioned previously, they are fully benefited, group medical, PTO, and retirement. So in summary, we're requesting a motion to authorize the city manager to engage in a limited duration temporary employment agreement in accordance with policy. I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Marriott?
So I've got one, my only real question is, do we think these folks are going to, are they willing to stay? Are we, is this going to do the job of keeping them?
That's a great question. So these are some very talented individuals, and my understanding through our community development director and other staff in community development is that they're all very eager to join us and very happy with the camaraderie that they have in the department.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much. And I think this is very important. You know, we're not over the hump yet on the numbers of permits that are going to be required. And you know, I kind of watch the permit portal, and there's more demo permits being applied for every day, really, which means there's going to be more new house permits being applied for every day. And I don't think we can impose upon our residents to go back to it taking 8 to 12 to 14 months to get a permit for a new build. So I think this is very critical. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
I have 2 questions. One is rate of pay. Is that in line with what we're currently paying? I just don't want to see us bringing on people that are actually making more than our current staff employees.
Correct.
That would be fair?
Yes, correct. Did you have part?
And the second half would be as far as termination. What is the termination policy? If we determine that we don't need 7, what obligations are we under to terminate? You know, are we obligated for 6 months per person as a minimum requirement, or is an employee at will, or how are we looking at that?
Excellent questions. So the rate of pay, these individuals are currently each earning $25.01 per hour from FDEM, or the contracting agency that they're employed by. Our current permit technicians are all receiving in excess of that for an hourly rate of pay. And then the second half of your question is termination. The termination policy is outlined in the personnel rules and regulations, and they would fall under whatever our existing termination requirements are. They are at-will employees.
So they're at will. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Mayor Petrella? So I just have one question. I seem to recall, I think we touched on this matter at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago. Is the door open for us to go back to the state and ask for additional assistance as it relates to the compensation for these people.
So thank you, Vice Mayor. We have been in contact through our lobbyists as well directly with the Kevin Guthrie, who's the head of FDEM, to try to get an extension on what they called the 1206 grant that was paying for this. We've been notified that the federal government has never extended the 1206 grant program, and they have no plans to do so. We've also been notified that Mr. Guthrie is advocating on our behalf and has asked all cities to collectively come together to try to advocate to see if the state would fund the continuation. The funding runs out on April 11th, so as you can imagine, we'll probably find out right at the very end, but we didn't want to wait until that, so we wanted to secure the talented staff we have so they would not be seeking other employment. So there's still potential the state will pay for it. We will let you know if they agree to that and extend that funding. If they do, it just means we would not have to draw down our building reserves. That is the plan and the funding source right now for this strategy.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
I do not.
Did you say you do not?
Sorry, my microphone didn't go on. I do not.
Thank you. Commissioner Marriott, looks like you want to say something.
Oh, I'm just waiting for it to be time to make a motion. Are we there?
Well, I'm kind of there, but I think we got to give deference to everybody. Commissioner Robinson, Mayor, any comments? Okay, we're ready for a motion.
All right. I will make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-08.
Second.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson? Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mulholland?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So our next item's on the agenda, unless I've missed something in my chicken scratch up here, is items for discussion. And item 1 being a report on the city clerk vacancy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners, and community. I'll introduce this item and have the HR Director here as well to answer any questions. Just to give a little background, the Commission directed me to engage in services with Renee Norlock, who is an executive recruiter, to assist us with the outreach efforts and initial screening of the candidate applications. The first round that we all participated in included the vetting of 4 candidates. The process included an interview with the entire leadership team, which is all the directors and communications manager in the city, as well as the city clerk team participated in those internal interviews. And they also each individually interviewed with each of you directly. The leadership team had identified a top candidate recommended to each of you individually, and that candidate has accepted a position in Treasure Island. And so the position still remains posted. The executive recruiter is still in contract with us and has continued to receive applications as well as vetting them, and the position remains open until filled until we receive further direction from the commission. Tonight, you've been presented with 3 of the remaining candidates for consideration and discussion, and I'm seeking direction from you tonight. I believe you have two different paths you could take. The first one could be that you select one of the 3 candidates and direct me to initiate with the Human Resources Director negotiations for an employment contract, and that contract will be brought back in public, for public adoption and appointment, or direction to continue the recruitment and vetting of candidates, and if there are some actual candidates still in the vetting pool, and then if we were to continue those interviews over the next few weeks, then we would bring back the same group back to you as a holistic pool to consider. That's the end of my report.
Somebody's got to start.
I think we should
Continue with the process. I think we should, look at additional candidates. We've got 2 weeks before the next commission meeting. We have an opportunity to vet a few additional individuals, schedule additional interviews maybe towards the middle or so of next week. Renee's always done a good job bringing us quality candidates. I know with the support that we have from our city manager's office and the directors and the rest of the city clerk staff, we should be able to find somebody who will be a good fit. I think this is too important a decision for us to be rushing into it. Just like with all of our charter officers, we spent a lot of time, we did a lot of due diligence. And I think we should make sure that we have the best possible candidate for our city and for our residents, especially as this person's going to be, it's one of the highest touch points in the city. The public interacts with the city clerk much more than we give him credit for. So those are my thoughts on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Marriott?
I'd just like to echo the mayor's comments. I think this is a critical position, and I think we want to get it right. And I think we interviewed some good candidates, and so I certainly don't want anyone in the public thinking that we're sitting here floundering because we didn't get any good applicants, because we did. But I think we want to make sure that we explore all of our options and make sure that we really get the best person. And I think taking a couple more weeks to figure it out is a wise move, and I think we're in good hands with our current assistant city clerk, who's very capable. So I think taking the time to investigate it further is a good move.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson, anything?
I'd be willing to vote on it right now. I thought Jessica Wilson was well qualified. She's very close to getting her certificate. I thought she was a leading candidate. I know we lost out on one. I'm not sure I agree that the vetting process was great. I thought she was an excellent candidate. She's Florida-based. She knows Florida statute. I found very few things lacking, and I'd be willing to cast a vote on that today. The only other item I have is just fixing a little bit of the job description. There was one item that I didn't particularly care for. I thought it needed to be more of a collaboration and working at the direction of item. And I know city manager and I talked about that. So that was another point, because I would highly like to see the, charter officer positions kept separate, simply because I think that helped us out tremendously with the previous situation.
Thank you. Commissioner Woznicki, you have anything to add to any of that?
I agree with everyone. I am ready to vote for one of the candidates. I don't know what process we're going to use, if we're doing something similar to what we did when we hired our city manager. But I'll go with the majority, but I would hate to lose candidates. We lost one already last week. And if we did have a list of resumes, I wish I would have had them already, so that then I would know. So it's kind of hard other than I'm hearing that we're saying that we do have others that have submitted, but I haven't seen any of those resumes, so that's it.
Yeah, I agree, I guess, with Commissioner Marriott, and, well, I agree pretty much with everybody, I guess, that the folks that we spoke to, I think any of them could serve us well, but I'm not sure I'm in the camp that we shouldn't continue to explore, at least for 2 more weeks. We are not desperate. We do have 2 excellent deputy clerks. But you made a good point, Commissioner Brzezinski, that, you know, we've already lost 1, and if we wait, we may lose another. So I think that's real. And I think there, you know, maybe somebody else will roll on and somebody rolls off, but I surmise there's only but so many people that are looking to change their particular workstation in life. So I think it's more likely we're apt to lose than gain. But I do think that, as the mayor indicated, it's an important position, and we aren't desperate. We do have 2 qualified deputy clerks, so I'm in the camp that, you know, maybe we should give it 2 more weeks, but I guess if somebody wanted to make a motion, that we could entertain it. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney? I think unless somebody wants to make a motion to recommend hiring one of these folks tonight, and obviously get a second, that we should give it 2 more weeks and see what else comes of it. But I got the sense that possibly Commissioner Robinson wants to make a motion tonight. I don't know, after you've heard us all speak, do you still feel that way, Commissioner Robinson?
I just don't want to lose anybody who's qualified. And I felt that Jessica was highly qualified for the position. And, you know, there was no negativity associated with it. I don't know where she stacked up on everybody else's list. I just know where she stacked up on mine. And again, just would hate to, like you said, people roll off and hopefully others will come on. So it is a gamble.
So are you making a motion?
Again, I don't think we're in a position where I don't think we're in a position where we need to make
a quick decision here. We have time, we have options. You know, I think we had, so for me, it was just 1 candidate and then nobody else. Unfortunately, that candidate is no longer available. And I hate to say it this bluntly, but we are in a public forum, and so I will, because I don't have a choice. But for me, the other 3 candidates, unfortunately, did not measure up. So I would not be able to support any of them. And I think this was part of how we went, you know, looking at the city manager's position. We want to make sure that we have somebody that we can all work with. When we made that decision, we didn't have anyone, the 2 final candidates, neither one of us particularly didn't feel that they weren't qualified. We felt that they were both equally very well qualified. It's just we may have had a preference for one or the other. And in my opinion, in this case, the 3 other candidates, for various reasons, didn't measure up and did not necessarily, did not find that they would be a good fit for our city. whether it was experience, whether it was qualifications, whether it was some other external factor. You know, but that's where I come from. So for me, I'm not willing to settle. I'm not willing to say, you know, if I have my top tier candidate and this is the number one, and I really don't have a second, I don't think waiting 2 weeks or even a month until we find the right candidate. I think that's prudent at the very least to take additional time, interview additional candidates. Again, we're not in a position where we have to just pick somebody for fear that they may take another job. You know, I really like the top candidate. I think if I was in their position looking for a job, I might have probably waited until tonight before I made a decision. So maybe that, you know, indicated something about the quality of that candidate. I don't know. So that's my position. That's where I come from. I think we should take our time, look at the other candidates that we have available. The application process is still open, so there's a good chance that we may receive other candidates as well.
So do we have a consensus that we're going to continue the process? Okay. Well, I guess, Madam City Manager.
What's the price tag on continuing as well? Just out of curiosity.
The price tag of picking the wrong candidate.
Well, no, I realize that. I realize that. But is it another 20? What was it? 25,000?
No. It was
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no worries. So Renee offered a reduced fee because, quite frankly, our HR director is doing a lot of the heavy lifting as well to process and schedule. So she charged $15,000, and that fee stays in place and flat until we fill the position. So it doesn't increase because we haven't completed, because we didn't in this first round select someone.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
So, Matt.
Okay with waiting then. If we need to vet some more, I'm okay with that.
So, Madam City Manager, I think you have your direction.
I do. Thank you very much.
Next item for discussion, waiving of permit fees 422. Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because we are seeing, you know, still some permits coming in. Like we've said, there's almost coming down, and just wanted to see where we stood from a talk standpoint financially, where we're standing on that. With our reserve, or if we're still with our reserve, where we're at, just to talk about if we get to the point, do we want to extend that at all?
So what I would recommend is that we bring this back in the April 8th update for the recovery efforts, and we show you how much we've spent, how much we've waived to date, because there's an element of the state paying for some of the staff, and then also show you some projections like we did the first time, and also talk about the building reserve fund in relation to staffing, the staffing complement we're looking at for the next 6 to 12 months. And then we could get direction on the 8th, and if the direction is to continue it, I could bring a resolution on the following meeting.
Okay, great. I would like to at least look at it, at least talk about it, see where we're at on it, because some of it is a bit of a wash. Simply because of the reimbursement side of it.
Any other comments on that? Okay, Commissioner Robinson, code enforcement on weekends?
I don't know who else is getting phone calls, but I am getting phone calls from residents, and I have as well been put on conference calls when they've had the sheriff arrive, and to much dismay found out that some of our sheriffs do not know how to work a decimal meter, and are not up to speed on some of the code items. And we don't have anybody. In my business, at least, we put people on call, on an emergency call. We don't have anybody in code, even on call. It's just something I find interesting, that we have no code enforcement on the weekends at nights, and we have, nobody on an emergency call or on a call basis. And I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know what you are experiencing in your districts or outside of your districts or wherever, what kind of phone calls you're getting, but I do get phone calls. And I just, it's hard to do any management of that other than call the sheriff, and then there's no resolution necessarily, unless it's criminal. And that's about all they can do at that point. If they're not prepped on what's going on from a code standpoint, they can't do anything. So I don't know if it's feasible to put somebody, do a after hours call, something that's, something that the sheriff's office can call.
I'm curious, Commissioner Robinson, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So, decibel meters, you had some noise problems in your district?
Yes, I have.
Oh. Okay. Well, my experience has been that the decibel meters don't really solve a lot, so hopefully we as a city can do something about that, but I'm not optimistic. So, anybody else, anything on this particular item?
No, not just like this, if the city manager could weigh in on this.
Or if maybe bring it back with some recommendations at one of the upcoming commission meetings.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd actually prefer to circle back with staff to see what the solutions would be for solving this problem and associated staffing, costs, potential training, sort of options. If you could give me a couple meetings from now, we could come back on a presentation and talk about it.
Thank you.
Next item's highest and best use of the Budget Committee, and once again, this is Commissioner Robinson.
Talked about this a few months back with the city manager in regards to that, potentially using what we could use the Budget and Finance Committee for vetting anything pre-coming to us or, post-coming to us, some way to use them, and they're willing to be used, in a better capacity. I'm just looking for a way that we can use them. I mean, we need to have our hands out to get as much money as we can, and I think, it's a perfect opportunity to use that committee to do such on our behalf.
I'm assuming nobody disagrees with that.
I mean, I would ask our city attorney to look into, because it's a charter, right? Like, the purpose of this committee, is that something that they can do?
It's not a charter board, it's a city ordinance or city code board. The powers and duties are in section 2272, and we can look at some potential amendments there to clarify or expand if you like. Right now it says the Finance and Budget Review Committee shall have the power to adopt rules and procedures to conduct their regular and special meetings. The powers of the committee shall include the ability to review requests for a budget appropriations and requests for supplemental appropriations, review annual audit reports and monthly financial reports, And in general, the committee shall monitor and review the financial position of the city. Thereafter, the committee shall make comments and such recommendations to the city commission as are deemed appropriate, and shall perform such other duties as may be assigned to it by the city commission. And then I
Now that we've
defer
got a new
to,
finance director on board, maybe it's something that we can involve them with and come up with something. I just think we've got boards and we have committees, let's use them to our advantage. It only makes sense, and especially when they're willing to do it.
we have section 2274, staff participation and responsibilities. The city shall make available staff to assist the Finance and Budget Review Committee in the performance of its duties. We have a pretty general powers and duties and staff participation at this point, so it's probably broad enough to encompass most things that you want to do already.
Okay. Commissioner Robinson, you have the last item as well, lobbyist reports.
I was a little disappointed to see the HB 943 come about, just from a knowledge standpoint, from yesterday's emails, and I just feel like I'm blind at not having any sort of lobbyist report, knowing what our lobbyist is doing and what they're representing for us. I haven't seen anything. And, you know, I'm concerned on this expansion of the Live Local, as well as other things. I mean, I would think we would be getting some sort of reports on what's coming about, what's being presented, you know, what the House is doing, what the Senate's doing, things that would affect us, and would like to get timely notice instead of the day before.
So thank you, Commissioner Robinson, and we discussed this together, and I've requested that Shoemaker Advisors provide a monthly report of activities that they are lobbying on behalf of the city, and then I would include that in one of my weekly city manager operational updates. And because we're in legislative season, I'll discuss during that intense bill writing and passing activity that maybe we increase the frequency, because it is a little more intense than what occurs throughout the rest of the year. So I have already entered into a conversation with them about providing that information.
Any other comments on this matter? Mr. Mayor, you good? Next item is reports. City Clerk.
I only had a reminder for the commission that there's a priority workshop on Saturday, April 12th at 9 a.m. and a community meeting from 5:30 to 7 on Monday, April 14th, both here in Chambers.
Thank you. City Manager.
Just one item I wanted to discuss or offer to you, that as I've been here and through the storms, I have found, and learning you all in the community, I've found that the community meetings that we had as a result of the storms and recovery, I feel were very productive. And that setting allowed a dialogue between the elected officials and the community and staff as we sort of structured them as a presentation and then a Q&A. I'd like to offer that instead of the workshop setting for items such as noise ordinance, freebie, and I think the next one coming up is beaches, that instead of a workshop setting where it's just more of a tell to staff between the commission and staff, that I bring them in the community workshop format, and we would roll them out similar to what we did with the recovery efforts. And so I just wanted to let you know that and make sure there's no objections. They'll be a little more casual and like we did, bring you down to the level of the community and less structured. So really seeking that feedback so that we can understand the issues from the community before we bring you legislation to pass.
Mr. City Attorney, I guess you got several things.
I guess Going back a little bit, I know we don't have a lobbyist report, but I did want to bring to your attention a bad bill and the bill number so that you're aware of it and not taken by surprise. It's House Bill 1535, and this would prohibit local governments within 100 miles of the landfall of Hurricane Helene and Milton from adopting comprehensive plan amendments or land development regulations that are more restrictive or burdensome, and would also prohibit moratoriums. And that would be retroactive back to August of 2024 and would last until 2027. So that's a bad bill, and it interferes with our home rule power, and anything you guys can do about that would be helpful. And just so that you're aware of it until we have our next update from our lobbyist. I have 3 requests for executive sessions and 3 of our litigation cases that I'd like to request tonight for the Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 date at 4:30 p.m. before our regular meeting. Pursuant to section 286.0118A, I'm advising the City Commission tonight on March 25th at a duly noticed public meeting that the City Attorney desires advice related to settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures concerning the litigation in 3 different cases, and I'll read the 3 cases out to you. CMARC Inc. and Protect St. Pete Beach Advocacy Group and Ken Barnes versus City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, and CP St. Pete LLC, 6th Judicial Circuit, case number 24-000008 AP. That's commonly known as the Serrata conditional use case. The closed attorney-client executive session would be held at City Commission Chambers at 155 Quarry Avenue, St. Pete Beach, 33706 at 4:30 on April 8th. And the following individuals will be present. I guess before I read the individuals, I'll read the other 2 cases so I don't have to repeat this once. The second case would be CMARC Inc. and Protect St. Pete Beach Advocacy Group and Ken Barnes versus the City of St. Pete Beach and 5500-5600 Gulf Boulevard IG LLC and 5700 Gulf Boulevard BR LLC and 5750 Gulf Boulevard CR LLC, Reef Resort Condominium Association Inc. and 6000 Gulf Boulevard SP LLC. This is the 6th Judicial Circuit Court, case number 24-000012-AP, and that's commonly known as the Trade Winds conditional use case. And then also the case we talked about before, we have some additional things. In the Red, White, and Booze LLC, a Florida limited liability company, Charles L. Collum and Helen Collum versus the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, Middle District of Florida, Tampa Division, a federal case number 8:CB-2704-KKM-AAS. For all of these attorney-client sessions, which would be held on the same date and time in separate sessions, we'll have the same people attending. The following individuals may be present during this executive session, 1 or more who may be participating electronically, and some of these people may not actually attend, but this is to cover those who will. Adrian Petrola, Mayor; Joe Mulholland, Vice Mayor; Karen Marriott, Commissioner; Lisa Robinson, Commissioner; Betty Reznicki, Commissioner; Fran Robustelli, City Manager; Attorneys Becky Vose, Esquire, and Ralph Bruce, Esquire; Nancy Stuperich, Esquire, and Stephanie Bello, Esquire, all of the Vose Law Firm as City Attorney, and Attorneys William Boltrek III, Esquire, Brendan Shearman, Esquire, and Richard Aiken, Esquire, all with the law firm of Henderson, Franklin, Starnes, and Holt, who are also serving as co-counsel for the city in these 3 cases, and an official court reporter is provided by law. The length of the attorney-client executive sessions in these cases is approximately 20 minutes each for about 1 hour total. And pursuant to section 286.0118 Florida statutes, the attorney-client executive sessions will be recorded by a certified court reporter, and they'll be transcribed separately. However, the transcription of each proceeding will be exempt from Florida Public Records Act until such time as that particular litigation is concluded. At the conclusion of that litigation, a transcript may be obtained from the clerk of the City Commission. And in accordance with American with Disabilities Act and Florida Statute 286.26, persons needing special accommodations for disabilities should contact the office of the city clerk at 727-367-9201, no later than 4 days prior. So with that request, if you could approve that, then we would set those executive sessions for 4:30 on April 8th on a Tuesday.
That works for me.
Mr. City Attorney. District 1?
Yeah, that works for me. That works fine for me, yeah.
That's fine for me, too.
Yes.
Nods. Good.
You got a nod from all
Thank
of
you
us.
very much. We'll post the notice tomorrow. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Continuing on with the reports, District 1?
Did we skip the city manager, or did you not have anything tonight? Okay.
I did have something, but I already said it.
Okay. I got lost in the link. There we go. I think it was mentioned earlier that, you know, we have tourists in the neighborhood, and by and large, they're all pretty amazed at how good things look in the city of St. Pete Beach. And I know for a lot of us, that's a little bit gut-wrenching because we feel like things are definitely not okay. But I think it's also a testament to what a great job that our city staff has done making the city look like everything is fine. And so that's an interesting tension, right? But I think overall, as painful as it all still is for all of us who live here, it's a really good thing. And you know, there's more people I know in District 1, there's more people moving back into their houses every day. There's almost somebody back in their house on every street, which is really fantastic. So, you know, though we're right about the 6-month mark and it's taken longer than we all wanted it to, there is definite progress being made. So I think we should all hang on to the progress and hope for continued progress going forward. And that's all I got.
Thank you. District 2?
Just wanted to say I will announce my library hours coming up. I haven't had a chance to review that with the folks over at the library to confirm which days, but I will try to make them as well consistent this year, this go around as I did before, and I look forward to continuing to serve District 2 and the residents of St. Pete Beach.
Thank you. District 3?
Just a couple of dates for the neighborhood community meetings. On March 27th at 6 p.m., so this week, at Lido Pavilion. This is for the Lido Beach community neighborhoods, as well as Boca Ciega and any of the neighboring closest to that area. It's open for all the residents in that zone. Then on April 10th, the Bella Vista neighborhood meeting at 7 p.m. And then on April 24th at 6 p.m. For the Don Cesar neighborhood to discuss seawalls and resiliency. That's it.
Thank you. I have nothing to add for District 4. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
We're adjourned.